This feature inside Serato completely changed the way that I use the software. In this video, I'm going to show you 3 different ways that I use beat jump. Let's get into it. Beat jump is a feature inside Serato that allows you to jump forwards or backwards perfectly in time with the music by a set number of beats. Now, first of all, we need to make sure that we have beat jump enabled in the settings. So inside Serato, let's go to the settings page here in the top right. And then under DJ preferences, you have an option to show beat jump controls. Make sure this is ticked. And then here in the main Serato screen, you have this row of numbers just below the loop function. This is where you can select the number of beats that you jump forward or backwards. And the arrows just underneath allow you to jump forward or backward. Most Serato hardware will have a pad mode that allows you to actually control beat jump directly from your controller. Here on the DDJ Flex 4, you have a dedicated beat jump pad mode. This allows you to jump backward or forward, or you can use these 2 pads to change the beat increment, like this. If your controller does not have a roll pad mode, then you can either MIDI map the beat jump controls to some functions on your controller that you don't use, or you could just click on the Serato screen and control it like that. So first of all, I use beat jump to set hot cues on any new song that I add to my Serato library, and this saves me so much time. So right now with this track loaded into deck 1, you can see that I've got no hot cues set at all. So let's press play. And the first thing I like to do is get the track to the first kick drum, which is coming up here. So if I rewind just to there, which is the first downbeat of the track. Now, first of all, let's go to hot cue and let's set our first hot cue. So now that we've got our first hot cue set, I like to use beat jump in an increment of 32 beats to set all of my other hot cues. So let's go to beat jump. First of all, make sure that the beat increment is on 32, which it is. And then if I jump forward 32 beats, I can then go back to hot cue and set hot cue number 2. Then let's go back to beat jump, forward 32, back to hot cue, set another hot cue. Let's do the rest. So now I've got 8 different hot cues set on this track. Let's take a quick listen through them. Now, even though I have those 8 hot cues set very quickly, they will not end up being my final hot cues that I use. I use this as a starting point to get 8 hot cues set on any track super fast. When applying this technique to any dance music like drum and bass, you're only going to want to set your hot cues at 32 beat increments. The only time where that might not be the case is if you're a turntablist or you might use the hot cue pads for finger drumming. If that's the case, you're probably going to set your hot cues in a slightly different way. But when it comes to mixing dance music, I've found this technique saves me so much time. Now, the next way that I like to use beat jump is I use it to line up phrases of tracks that I'm mixing in Serato. So this works best with dance music, and we've got 2 drum and bass tracks loaded into our decks. I use beat jump to make sure drops line up with drops and breakdowns line up with breakdowns. Now, back in the day, if you wanted to line up a load of drops with all of the songs that you're playing, it took a crazy amount of preparation. You had to know exactly when to mix in the next track, and if you missed that spot, then the mix was ruined. Using beat jump in DJ software, all I need to do is glance at the waveform at the top where I can see the full track, and after a little bit of practice, you will soon get used to actually lining up the tracks using beat jump. So I've got 2 drum and bass tracks loaded into the decks, and you can see on the main overview waveforms at the top that there's a breakdown section coming up on the track on the left deck, and there's a breakdown section coming up on the track on the right deck. Now, I do not have these 2 tracks lined up at all, but if I start playing the song on the right deck, by using beat jump, I can make sure that both tracks drop at the same time. Let me show you what I mean. So we've got a breakdown coming up on this track very shortly. And I'm going to start mixing the track on the left deck from earlier in the song. So the track on the right deck has quite a long breakdown, and if we go to beat jump on the left deck, we can use beat jump forward to jump forward by 32 beats. Now the track on the left deck is currently in the breakdown, but it's quite a short breakdown. So let's jump back 32 beats one more time. These two tracks are now going to drop at the same time. So we've lined up our phrasing with no preparation at all. We've just created a double drop simply by understanding when the drops are going to happen and how to use beat jump to make sure everything lines up properly. Now, once you get used to this style of mixing, it really isn't difficult to line up tracks to make sure they're perfectly in phrase. This technique is kind of a cheat code when it comes to mixing drum and bass or house music, because in those genres, you always want to make sure that breakdowns happen at the same time as breakdowns and drops mix with other drops. This next technique is about using the dead space or the silence before the track actually starts inside Serato. So here on the left deck, I've got my first hot cue set to the first kick drum of the track. Now if I go to beat jump and then beat jump back 32 beats, you can see that there's a section of music that doesn't have any drums. Now mixing from a part of the track that doesn't have any drums is actually kind of tricky to do, but beat jump makes this really easy. So here we are back at hot cue number 1. Let's go to beat jump and then beat jump back 32. And then if I beat jump back 32 again, you can see that in Serato, it's jumped to 32 beats before the song even starts. Now we can use this to our advantage. So let's play this track. And then in a moment, I'm going to start mixing the track on deck 1, but I'm not going to bring the fader up yet. So here we go. So now let's go to beat jump and let's beat jump back 32 beats twice. Bring the fader up. And you can see we've perfectly introduced the track on the left deck perfectly in time without having to press play perfectly in time. We've just let it do its thing, all by using beat jump, by jumping back to a part of the song where there's actually nothing happening. So you can actually beat jump back to a part of the song which is before the track even started. Serato introduces this kind of dead space before a song starts, which on the face of it is kind of odd, but you can use it to your advantage when mixing tracks that do not start with drums. Let's take a quick look at the track on the right deck. Let's go all the way back to the start of that song and let's take a listen to that track from the very beginning. So as you can hear, there's nothing happening at the start of this track that gives you any kind of clue as to how to mix it in. There's a hi-hat there, but before that, there's no hi-hats, there's no drums, there's nothing to go by. So by using this beat jump technique, you could mix this track from the very beginning by mixing later in the track and beat jumping back to before the song even started. Let's try it by playing this track and mixing this one in. So let's go to hot cue number 1 and let's start mixing here. And let's go to beat jump and let's beat jump back to here where there's nothing happening. Let's bring the fader up. So now the track on this deck is subtly mixing in from a part where there were no drums. So mixing from there would have been really difficult. So here we've got some drums coming in now. So this is a great way of mixing tracks that have those difficult intros. A lot of radio edits nowadays start with no drums, they just kind of fade in. This technique makes mixing songs like that super easy. Beat Jump is a game changer, and it's completely transformed the way that I mix dance music in Rekordbox and Serato. Thanks for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, you should check out this video right here.